The American gay rights movement has accomplished major goals in political, social, and sexual realms. Before this movement, American society completely concealed the issue of sexual equality. This caused many homosexuals either to keep their sexual orientation undisclosed or to accept brutal discrimination. My uncle, Jeffrey Borah, serves as a primary example of those who masked their homosexuality. Throughout his life, societal and family concerns prevented him from opening up. Though Jeff did not directly participate in the gay equal rights movement, he gained expansive benefits due to radical gay rights activists. Due to their fearless pursuits of gay equality, Jeff finally came out after years of silence. The American gay rights movement has given a voice to the homosexual population as they demand equal opportunities in a heterosexual-dominated world. Though only a minority of gay people helped with this movement, the results profoundly affected each and every male homosexual, lesbian, and bisexual person around America. Throughout United States history, minority groups have been targeted by the majority, or alleged superior population. These groups, including African Americans, Native Americans, immigrants, women, and non-Protestant Americans, have continually battled with the concept of equality, as critical discrimination invaded all facets of their lives. Parallel to these minorities, homosexuals face similar intolerance. With sodomy laws, anti-gay sentiment, and restrictions on their civil rights, the American government severely restricted homosexuals' freedom. It was only a matter of time until this issue would manifest itself as a widespread rebellion, namely the American gay rights movement. However, due to the attitude of society, many homosexuals accepted this discrimination and did not participate in this movement. Unlike the pioneer gay rights activists, they were unwilling to confront the dishonor of society. As gay rights activists pushed for critical changes, the vast gay majority simply benefited from the activist struggles. As early as the mid-1900s, organizations began supporting gay rights began to form. The first organization started in 1950, when communist Harry Hall founded the Mattachine Society in Los Angeles, California. He envisioned an organization that would allow homosexuals to create their own distinct culture similar to that of African Americans, Jews, and Mexican Americans. However, by 1953, the founders left the radical group, and the new members developed a different purpose for the organization. They transitioned it into a place that would help homosexuals adjust to mainstream society, as opposed to fighting for equality. Though not completely revolutionary, this organization helped introduce the issue of gay rights, and by the late 1960s, gay rights organizations would begin to make actual progress. Following Hall's lead, Del Marchione and Phyllis Loyan, a lesbian couple, created the Daughters of Bilitis in 1955. This group, founded in San Francisco, California, allowed lesbians to personally identify with each other and unite against social and political discrimination. Although this group dwindled in numbers during the 1970s, its founders, as well as staunch member Barbara Gidding, continued in their support of gay rights. Despite its diminishment, the group paved the path for not only gay rights movements, but also a lesbian rights movement. During the 1950s and 1960s, gay people needed to be covert with their sexual orientation, as society looked down upon them. Throughout this time, many states enforced sodomy laws. These laws regulated non-procreative sexual acts for both homosexuals and heterosexuals alike. However, the government undoubtedly created these regulations to specifically target the gay population. Up until the year 2000, approximately 20 states had sodomy laws. Because federal laws deemed sodomy a felony, these laws allowed society to ostracize gay people as they equated them to criminals. Under the influence of sodomy laws, many states restricted employment and housing to homosexuals. Due to the legal aspect of sodomy laws, most gay people kept their sexual orientation undisclosed during this time. With the social and political rights of the gay population violated, it only took one riot to stimulate the American gay rights movement. Many historical observers find the Stonewall riots as the omen of this movement. Originally a restaurant in Greenwich Village, New York City, the Stonewall Inn closed after a fire in the mid-60s. The Mafia transformed the restaurant into a gay club. On the opening night of March 18, 1967, Stonewall received instant popularity, especially among drag queens and feminine men. To escape the closed-minded heterosexual society, gay people flocked to Stonewall for privacy and security. Martin Duberman explains the appeal of this club as, quote, "Many saw it as an oasis, a safe retreat from the harassment of everyday life." End quote. The momentous protest began on Saturday, June 28th at around 1:20 a.m. when 4 police officers and 2 patrolmen raided the Stonewall Inn. Deputy Inspector Seymour Pine, the head of the Public's Morals Section, handed the management a search warrant, which allowed him to confiscate liquor, close the bar, and dismiss the customers. Forced out of the bar, the customers formed a crowd and fought back against the police. They began throwing coins, bottles, rocks, and other items at them, which continued over the next 3 days. As news spread throughout Greenwich Village, many gay people joined the protest. The crowd started pronouncing "gay power." As the protests grew, the Tactical Patrol Force, a riot-controlled squad trained to break up the people against the Vietnam War, assisted the policemen. Estimates of involvement stretched to as high as 400 police and 2,000 protesters. Being the first gay rights protest in America, Stonewall can be seen as the catalyst for the American gay rights movement. On the one-year anniversary of the Stonewall riots, June 28, 1970, a major gay pride march known as the Christopher Street Liberation Day occurred in New York City. Led by 200 GAA members, an estimated 5,000 to 20,000 people marched from New York City's Greenwich Village to Central Park. People came from Philadelphia, Washington, and Baltimore to support this powerful step towards gay freedom. Due to its large numbers, the New York Times featured the march on its front page. Though occurring in New York City in the largest numbers, other cities also celebrated the importance of the Stonewall riots. After Stonewall, many gay rights organizations emerged throughout America. During the following year, gay rights activists created a Gay Liberation Front, GLF. This organization expanded tremendously, claiming 450 members by 1969. As 1970 approached, the organization even featured a magazine called Come Out. Although it continued through the early 1970s, it eventually diminished and the Gay Activists Alliance, GAA, replaced it. GAA served as the next major group for the American gay rights movement. The founders of GAA wanted a male-only organization that operated more efficiently than GLF. Therefore, unlike the GLF, it claimed only male members, as opposed to lesbians, transgenders, and/or bisexuals. In addition, it encompassed a formal structure and even had a constitution to ensure a well-functioning organization. By the 1970s, the newfound gay groups and gay-friendly laws helped create a more gay-accepting society. Because more and more communities passed anti-discrimination legislation to protect gay people with employment opportunities, housing options, and public accommodations, homosexuals felt less wary about displaying their sexual orientation. Furthermore, by the 1970s, many states had repealed their sodomy laws. The Stonewall riots and the Supreme Court cases that supported the rights of sexual privacy helped decriminalize sodomy. This success, coupled with continued protests and marches, create another milestone for the movement. In addition to the burgeoning number of marches and protests, an increase in gay bathhouses, pornography, theaters, and backroom bars in the 1970s became noticeable. These industries represented about $100 million in the United States and Canada. Because many gay men saw a parallel between gay rights and sexual liberation, they placed a huge emphasis on sexual pleasure in the 1970s. This increase in sexual promiscuity contributed to the emergence of the Acquired Immune Deficiency Syndrome, AIDS. When this epidemic became prevalent in the 1980s, this halted major progress that gay rights activists had already made. Because AIDS were mostly prevalent in the gay community, the disease sent a negative attitude about homosexual people. Despite the hindrances that AIDS caused the American gay rights movement, it eventually raised knowledge about homosexuality in general. Rock Hudson shocked society when he announced that he had the AIDS disease on July 25, 1985. Known as a talented actor as well as a major heartthrob, the media expansively broadcasted Hudson's story. Because of his popularity, public interest grew rapidly. Elizabeth Taylor, a friend of Hudson's, used her resources as a renowned actress to help push for assistance for the AIDS epidemic. She raised money for an organization called AIDS Project, Los Angeles. In addition, she co-founded a foundation known as the American Foundation for AIDS Research, AMFAR, and also established the Elizabeth Taylor AIDS Foundation by 1991. Hudson's coming out, coupled with Taylor's various foundations, increased awareness about homosexuality, as well as support for the AIDS crisis that American society had previously ignored. Because Taylor's actions helped bridge the gap between homosexuals and heterosexuals, the radical right side of the political spectrum had more fuel for an anti-gay campaign. Religious organizations promoted their view of homosexuals as sinners. This spurred many anti-gay campaigns, including movements against companies with gay-accepting policies, boycotts of television shows that displayed gay people, and appointments of anti-gay city legislatures. Religious organizations were unhappy, as they also started the idea that gayness can be imposed on a child. Although religious campaigns attracted various followers, many people continued supporting gay rights under the influence of Elizabeth Taylor. Societal acceptance of the gay population can be linked to the media, as homosexuality became rampant in television and literature. Many celebrities also started to come out as gay. The impetus for gay/lesbian-friendly television shows began when Ellen DeGeneres and her character, Ellen Dean, revealed themselves as lesbians in the spring of 1997. Her coming out show, known as the Puppy episode, became ABC's highest-rated TV show of the entire season. Even then, Vice President Al Gore applauded this episode, noting that, quote, millions of Americans were forced to look at sexual orientation in a more open light, end quote. Ellen had paved the path for television that embraced homosexuality. Following Ellen, various gay-friendly shows became widely popular. In September 1998, the season that followed Ellen, NBC premiered Will and Grace. This comedy sitcom follows the life of a gay lawyer, Will Truman, and his platonic friendship with his straight roommate, Grace Adler. Another star on the show includes Will's gay friend, Jack. This immensely popular show demonstrates people's acceptance of the gay population. Had the show surfaced in the wake of the American gay rights movement, it would have failed miserably. However, gay rights activists accomplished more than just legal measures. They were able to make progress in changing the attitudes of society by the means of the media. A 2004 Newsweek article promotes this observation, for a quote an article by a University of Minnesota communications professor who stated that watching pleasing gay characters on television had comparable effects to knowing one in real life. One study demonstrated a 12% decline in anti-gay prejudice among students who did not know any gay people after watching a number of episodes of 6 Feet Under, a show that features a gay character. In addition, when polled concerning marriage, people between the ages of 18 and 29 years favored gay marriages, while all other groups opposed it. This young group had an important aspect in common. They had grown up watching gay-friendly television shows. This further demonstrates the positive effects of gay-friendly television shows on the opinions of society. Even though there is an increase in gay actors and characters in the media, the hate crime of Matthew Shepard illustrates how a large portion of society remained prejudiced. On October 7, 1998, 20-year-old Shepard asked 2 boys for a ride back to the University of Wyoming, the college he attended. The boys agreed, although they had an ulterior motive. They drove him out to a field where they brutally tortured him to death, simply because he was gay. Although incredibly heartbreaking, this event helped push a large portion of society into further action in support of gay equal rights. Even if some people did not favor the gay society, most of these individuals still did not advocate such cruelty. The barbarous murder of Matthew Shepard helped society realize the importance of the movement. As the 21st century came to a close, gay rights activists focused on gaining equality in terms of marriage. This issue had long been debated and continues to be discussed today. In 1996, under Clinton, Congress passed the Defense of Marriage Act, DOMA, which restricted federal laws from acknowledging unions between 2 homosexuals and also asserted that no state needed to recognize another state's definition of marriage. This act disappointed the gay community tremendously. Despite this act, several states have upheld same-sex marriage. These include Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, Iowa, Connecticut, and Washington, D.C. As gay rights activists continue to fight for equality, many more states may join the list. After years of repression, many gay people view same-sex marriage as the ultimate goal. By acknowledging same-sex marriage, it sends a message of complete acceptance of the gay population. These revolutionary movements made by gay rights activists by no means comprise most of the homosexual society. Many gay people only benefited from the results of this movement, though they did not participate. As demonstrated through the unequal marriage laws, the American gay rights movement had not achieved for its people total equality. As people of all types of sexual orientation continue their fight for sexual freedom, the movement will only become more successful. On November 26, 1950, Harry and Judy Borah welcomed their 3rd son Jeff into their family. He grew up in the 1950s and 60s, a time period when America experienced expansive changes in society. Growing up in a traditional household, Jeff describes his mother, Judy, as a loving, docile woman who fits the stereotype of a conventional housewife. Meanwhile, he deemed Harry as the man of the house, playing on a macho and conservative image as New York City's marshal of the law. Growing up in Cedarhurst, Long Island, Jeff's living conditions proved customary, with traditional surroundings. By 1962, at 15 years of age, Jeff felt different from his now 3 older brothers. He hated sports and he had an irrational fear of dogs. Also, he did not have any feelings for girls. However, Jeff chose to keep this knowledge to himself, completely secret. He noted the prevalence of homophobia, remembering how students laughed and mocked gay people. On top of this, he feared how his anti-gay father would react to his unintentional sexual orientation. Despite the Mattachine Society, there was no major American gay rights movement during Jeff's high school years. Therefore, he noted that people did not discuss gay rights, as he did not even know anybody who was openly gay. The Stonewall movement of 1969 occurred when Jeff was 19 years old. though this event did not influence him into opening up about his sexuality. The rioters consisted of mostly radicals and people willing to be ousted from society, a trait that Jeff admittedly did not foster. In addition, the neighborhood where Jeff lived shielded him as well as the other residents from such news. According to most people of the time, this riot was by no means a positive event. Over the next decade or so, Jeff tried to pursue heterosexual relationships and lived in denial about a truth he already knew in his heart. One day in 1981, at the age of 31 years, Jeff slightly opened up to his father, deeming that there was something wrong with him. He explained how he never became sexually aroused by women. The entire conversation was extremely emotional, with both men crying. However, his father never suggested the possibility that Jeff was gay. Instead, he insisted that Jeff's problem was mental, so he sent him to a psychologist. The psychologist asserted that Jeff simply had an emotional block, and thought that through therapy, this would change. However, this method had no effect on him. Reminiscing on the event, Jeff asserts that, quote, "That day when my father and I were crying, he never asked me if I were gay, but I believe that he knew. He just didn't want to acknowledge it." End quote. With so much progress for gay rights by the 1980s, how come Jeff did not open up? After all, the American gay rights movement had attained many successes, and a large portion of gay men had come out of the closet. However, despite the organizations created, court cases won, and the increase in protests, Jeff still felt tremendous anti-gay sentiment. Chief among this anti-gay sentiment attitude came from his father. He wanted his parents to be proud of him and cared a lot about their opinions. Fearing their utter mortification and possible rejection, he decided to hold back the truth. Keeping his sexual orientation secret became even more imperative when he found out that his mother was dying from cancer. He certainly did not want to put his family through more hardships. However, when both of his parents died, Jeff finally embraced the American gay rights movement. With his mother's death in 1976 and his father's in 1983, Jeff felt better about entering the gay world. However, it still took him about 2 years to start dating people after his father's death. There was not one particular event that made him decide to take this fundamental step. However, the gradual process of the movement changed societal views of gay people, and the 1990s marked a pivotal decade of a massive societal shift in the acceptance of homosexuals, largely due to gay representation in television, movies, actors, and literature. The major impetus for Jeff to feel socially acceptable came from the media. When movie star Rock Hudson announced that he had AIDS on July 25, 1985, Jeff did not feel quite so alone anymore. He remembered thinking, quote, "If Hudson, an extremely masculine and popular actor, could be gay, then anybody could." End quote. Jeff had been shielded from gay organizations and protests, but Hudson's widely publicized disease reached him. As he had looked up to Hudson from childhood, learning about his story started Jeff's long coming out process. With the death of his parents, Jeff assumed the responsibility over his then 21-year-old youngest sister, Rhonda, my mother. He became her father figure, portraying himself as strong and extremely paternal. Despite their closeness, he did not reveal his sexuality because he wanted to remain her role model, and he equated his homosexuality as inferiority. Both Rhonda and Jeff were in denial for a long period of time, especially with each other. Therefore, Jeff did not discuss his homosexuality until after Rhonda got married and was secure with her husband. In 1996, Jeff officially became open about his sexual orientation. 45 years old at the time and living in the culturally diverse New York City as a successful lawyer, Jeff thought his family would disapprove of him. However, coming out to his two living brothers and Rhonda proved to be easier than he imagined. Like Jeff, the siblings had a feeling all along and immediately supported his sexual orientation. Unfortunately, though, Jeff's parents and deceased brother, Larry, never learned of Jeff's 45-year-old secret. Thinking about this fact, Jeff now realizes that hiding the truth from his family was, quote, awful. Yet he continues that, quote, "I'm grateful that I was able to come out to most of my siblings and gain their acceptance." End quote. Reminiscing about the American gay rights movement, Jeff notes that it gave him strength to finally come out. Had the gay rights movement not happened, he most likely would have lived with the solemn secret for the rest of his life. The movement made gay people knowledgeable that they were not alone. However, he was not strong enough to suffer the wraths of society in the wakes of the movement. He simply enjoyed the progress that others made. Despite the movement, Jeff still senses negative feeling towards him. Many people continue to look down upon him, treating him like a second-class citizen simply because of his sexual orientation. He has felt rejection from employment, housing, and even charity functions. Although none of these places explicitly denied him access, he senses hostility. However, some of this he equates with living in the Upper East Side, which he claims is much more stringent than the West Side or even other cities. Although he has pondered moving, he recently decided that, quote, closed-minded people have no rights over me, end quote. This statement in itself says tremendous amounts of the expansive change that the American gay rights movement had for Jeff. He no longer feels unworthy, nor is he fearful of the judgments of society. He's now confident enough to live his life as an openly gay man, regardless of the way others think. Living in a predominantly heterosexual area of Baltimore, Maryland, my interactions with homosexuals have been limited. This reality could have ultimately narrowed my view concerning gays and lesbians. Therefore, having a gay uncle has led me to become more open-minded and accepting of different types of people. Throughout my life, Jeff has always held a strong position. Being my mother's mentor, parent figure, as well as best friend, he acts as a third parent to me. Had the American gay rights movement failed, Jeff might have pushed himself to live a heterosexual life. This would have limited his relationship with my mother, and therefore limited his influence over me. His direction and wisdom has played a major impact on my life, as he guides major decisions in my life. Due to this important role, he has transformed my view about the diversity of America. All Americans should understand the position of the American gay rights movement, as this issue serves as another example of society intolerance. Many people associate different with bad. However, this mindset will ultimately hurt all types of people. As Martin Niemöller sums up, quote, first they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out, because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out, because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out, because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me. End quote. This quote sends a message to society, questioning who the public will target next. A more accepting society would foster less hate and violence. Despite the efforts and accomplishments of the American gay rights movement, there is no way to completely change society. Just like many people remain racist, anti-Semitic, and anti-immigration, a large population will also remain anti-gay. This simply is the reality of our society, as dogmatic people will continue to exist everywhere. However, by continuing the fight for gay equality and raising awareness, the issue can only improve. The American gay rights movement and its effects on Jeff have brought me to the realization that throughout history, American beliefs have been challenged. As demonstrated through slavery, women's oppression, and conduct towards immigrants, society's previous beliefs are often proven wrong or flawed. Because society's values are constantly changing, I wonder what is next. This injustice upon gay people acts as a reminder that we all need to continually question our values and reassess our values, especially ones that may have become outdated in our ever-evolving society. Thank you very much.